Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for today, Wednesday, February 28th. If you're joining me for the very first time, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over a recap of yesterday's picks, seeing how they ultimately ended up turning out. After that, we'll get over to the injuries in play for tonight's 6-game main slate. So there are going to be a couple teams there on the back-to-back. We won't be touching them too much, but we'll have some injury reports as the day moves along for those teams. So just kind of breaking that all down. And then after that, we'll get moved over to both DraftKings and FanDuel and talk about my core picks on each site. So it's going to be one player at each position. So point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. But without further ado, we'll get started with a recap of yesterday's picks. So on the DraftKings side, ultimately ended up on Jalen Suggs at point guard. Once it was announced that Paolo Banchero would be missing, there was some extra usage rate to go around that would benefit a guy like Franz Wagner, benefit a guy like Jalen Suggs quite a bit. Unfortunately, they got massively blown out yesterday, so at $5,300, we were looking for 26-27 out of him. 18 minutes, that game was a blowout, so he only ended up with 16.75 points, so he was a miss. If you stayed on Trey Jones, who was our initial core pick, he ended up paying off, or if you went over to Miles McBride, who I said you could play if he ended up starting yesterday at $4,500, looking for, 23 out of him, got to 30.75, he was a hit as well. So kind of unfortunate there with Jalen Suggs. Then at shooting guard, we had Jordan Hawkins here, $4,300, kind of assumed that he would get the start for the Pelicans at that point guard spot. That did not ultimately end up being the case. So if you want to swap off of him to somebody else, it would have made some sense. Unfortunately, just ended up staying on him, so we were looking for 21-22 out of him. Figure he played like 24 minutes in this game. That was not the case. Played 27 minutes, 1 for 5 shooting from the field. Didn't have a single assist, just had a couple other rebounds here and there, so got to 10.5 points, so he was a miss as well. Then at small forward, we had Josh Hart, $6,700, looking for 33-34 out of him, got to 40.5, so he was a hit, as kind of he's been, as of late, quite a bit. So Josh Hart's been really good for us and for DFS just in general lately, especially with those big minutes that he has been playing as of late. And then at power forward, ultimately ended up on Kyle Anderson here, $4,700. Did like him quite a bit once Karl Anthony Towns was ruled out. We didn't know whether or not Rudy Gobert would play at that point in time, but he did ultimately end up playing Kyle Anderson. Only got to 13.5 points, so he was a mess, but he played 15 minutes in this game. Then did unfortunately get hurt. Looks like he'll probably be out for tonight's game as well, so kind of unfortunate there. A guy that really did hurt our lineups in that regard, getting hurt so early into the game. And then at center, we had Nikolai Vucevic at $7,800. Looking for at least 39 out of him, got to 44, so he was a hit on yesterday's slate, although the Chicago Bulls did ultimately end up losing to the Detroit Pistons, which is kind of sad if you're a Bulls fan or even a former Bulls fan like myself. So DraftKings, a little bit hit or miss yesterday. We had some kind of unfortunate misses there due to some blowouts, due to some injuries, so probably had to have a little bit better day in terms of the other guys that you had in your lineups. Kind of unfortunate there. And then on the FanDuel side, we went with Damian Lillard at the point guard spot, $8,600, looking for 43 out of him, got to 41.3. He was a miss, although he played 25 minutes in this game, was a massive blowout. If he plays his regular run in last night's game, he probably gets a triple-double, probably gets over 50 points, and pays off in a big way for us. Unfortunately, the Hornets could just not keep up yesterday. So, technically it was a mess, but still was a decent play. Nobody that hurt us altogether regardless. And then at shooting guard, we went with Jordan Hawkins once again, $3,900. So looking for 19-20 at him. Once again, he didn't start. He played 17 minutes, 1 for 5 shooting from the field. So only got to 10.8 points. So he was a miss. And then at small forward, we had Josh Hart once again, $6,700. Looking for 34 out of him. He got to 39.5. So he was a hit. At power forward, we ultimately ended up on John Collins here. $6,600, looking for 33 out of me, only got to 18. He was a mess. 22 minutes in this game. It was a massive blowout, and he only shot 2 for 8 from the field. Although I do believe he had 10 rebounds in this game. So if he goes out and he plays his normal run, probably has a chance of paying off, but just kind of unfortunate yesterday. Then at center, we had Naz Reid, $5,800, looking for at least 29 out of him, got to 37.7, so he was a hit. Did like him even better, if Rudy Gobert ultimately ended up missing, but, with no Karl Anthony Towns, and then the injury to Kyle Anderson looked pretty good for him overall on yesterday's slate. And then down here at the bottom, I did list Miles McBride as well because I said you could go to him at point guard if he did ultimately end up starting, $4,400. Was looking for 22 out of him, got to 31.6, so he was a hit on FanDuel as well. So once again, kind of a hit or miss day. Obviously, if you had some other good plays, you still had a chance of cashing, but it was a very hit or miss slate altogether overall. If you got to some Luka Doncic, you were probably pretty happy as he was the top performer on the slate by a pretty wide margin overall. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to RotoWire and talk about those injuries in play for tonight's slate. So once again, it is a 6-game main slate overall. We are starting at 7:30 Eastern time, so a half hour later than your typical lock time. And then with that being said, we have a handful of teams on the back-to-back. I believe it was 5 in total. So we'll just be highlighting them as we go through these injuries. The Pelicans are on the back-to-back. Jose Alvarado should be available for today's game. He's coming back from that suspension. Dyson Daniels probably out once again. I assume that T.J. McCollum will be questionable, and then Zion Williamson probably going to be questionable once again today since he did play yesterday. There's probably a pretty good chance that he does sit out for tonight's game overall. And then on the Pacers side, we got Doug McDermott listed as out, and Aaron Nesmith listed as questionable. He's missed their past couple of games with, I believe, a leg injury at this point. And then we move over to the Dallas Mavericks. They are also on the back-to-back. The only guy that did ultimately end up missing for them yesterday was Dante Exum. We'll see what his status is for today, and if anybody else joins him on their injury report as the day moves along. For the Toronto Raptors, really just Jakob Poeltl today with an ankle injury listed as questionable. Didn't return to their most recent game. If he's out tonight, Kelly Olynyk's going to look pretty good on both sites. And then if he plays, probably going to be some type of split between those two, and probably not going to have either one look pretty good at that point in time. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're on the back-to-back, same thing with the Bulls, so we'll just kind of see what this game ultimately looks like as the day moves along in terms of the injury report. I know Alex Caruso did leave their game early last night for the Chicago Bulls, so there is a decent chance that he probably misses tonight. Kind of see what that starting lineup looks like in that case as well. Could be a little bit of value there. Then we move down to the Memphis Grizzlies, who are without Desmond Bane, Brandon Clark, Luke Kennard, Scottie Pippen Jr., and Marcus Smart. And then John Conchar listed as doubtful at this point in time. The newest one here is Luke Kennard. He's going to be out tonight. So we'll see who ultimately starts in that point guard spot for them. Jordan Goodwin hasn't played the last 2 games, but probably gets back in the rotation. Derrick Rose has been back for a little while now too as well, but not playing big minutes. So kind of see how that all shakes out as the day moves along. And then on the Timberwolves side, they are on the back-to-back, so we'll see what their injury report looks like as the day moves along. Once again, Karl Anthony Towns was out yesterday due to a personal issue. Rudy Gobert was listed as questionable up until game time. He'd been dealing with an ankle injury. We'll see whether or not he plays on the back-to-back or not. And then Kyle Anderson obviously did get hurt in last night's game as well. Then we move down to the Sacramento Kings. They are without Sasha Vechenko, and then De'Aaron Fox is listed as questionable for tonight's game. I believe he's dealing with an ankle injury, so we'll see whether or not he plays. And then if he doesn't play, we'll see who starts in his spot, whether it's Malik Monk, whether it's Davion Mitchell, or whether it's Keon Ellis, who did start for him a couple times earlier this season. And then on the Denver Nuggets side, Cam Carr is out once again, and then Hunter Tyson, who's really not in the rotation, is listed as questionable to play tonight as well. Then we get moved over to the Los Angeles Lakers, who are without Castleton, Vanderbilt, Vincent, and Wood. So no major ones there. We have LeBron James listed as questionable due to his ankle, so he's probably going to play. Same thing with Anthony Davis listed as probable due to his Achilles. And then we have Cam Reddish, I believe, also dealing with an ankle listed as probable for tonight's game. So nothing too crazy here for the Lakers at this point in time. And then on the Clippers side, they're going to be without Paul George once again. So we'll see who starts in his place, whether it's Norm Powell, whether it's Amir Coffey, or someone else. But Norm Powell and Terrence Mann both have seen a pretty good jump up in minutes and production as of late. So both those two guys could be pretty interesting as value plays on tonight's slate overall. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown on all the injuries in play for tonight's slate. As always, if there's any injury updates that do come out throughout the day, I will be leaving them down in the comments below. So definitely be on the lookout for that, as well as the starting lineups as they do get announced throughout the night. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and talk about my core picks over there. So on the DraftKings side, we're going to start off at the point guard position. I'm going to go with Ayo Dosunmu here, $5,500. He was a guy that was in our initial core yesterday. I believe he's $5,400 yesterday, so a little bit more expensive today, looking for 27, 28 out of him. He's been playing big minutes, been playing really well for this Bulls team overall. Obviously, you have the chance that Alex Caruso is not available tonight, which probably just solidifies the minutes even more. And at the same time, pretty similar projection to yesterday, currently projecting him for about 29. It's not quite as favorable as a matchup as it was against the Detroit Pistons yesterday, going against the Cleveland Cavaliers, but still like the upside that he could present overall. Comes with a little bit of downside, but probably not anybody that's going to kill you altogether given the minutes that he's been getting as of late and figures to get once again tonight. Then as shooting guard, we're going to go with Norman Powell for the Los Angeles Clippers, $4,800, only looking for 24 out of him. Currently, I'm projected for about 27 tonight. He's been playing pretty decent-sized minutes with no Paul George out there. And he's been playing pretty well, so it's safe to assume that he is a pretty solid, safe value option early on today. And probably going to continue to be one throughout the day. He does also have really good eligibility, being shooting guard and small forward eligible, so you can fit him into 5 of the different positions on the DraftKings side overall tonight. So definitely do like that. Decent matchup against the Lakers tonight as well. So just like a really safe play, at least early on today. Then a small forward, we're going to go with Benedict Mathurin. Might be chasing the high end a little bit here, but $6,200. If Aaron Nesmith's not out there once again tonight, he should play significant minutes, and he's been playing really well as of late. both in terms of scoring and even getting some rebounds as of late too as well. So you're looking for 31 out of him at $6,200. Do currently am projected for about 33 tonight. We've seen some pretty strong upside from him as of late, so definitely does have some pretty high end upside. Not the greatest matchup against the Pelicans, but they're a little bit banged up at this point in time as well. And then at power forward, we're going to go with Naz Reid tonight, $5,500. Looking for 27, 28 points out of him. I do assume that Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be out once again tonight with that personal matter. Maybe it's just a one-game thing. We'll have to see as the day moves along. There is also the chance that Rudy Gobert misses tonight. So if that situation kind of pops up where there's no Rudy Gobert, no Karl-Anthony Towns, probably no Kyle Anderson too, Naz Reid's probably going to get about as many minutes as he can handle. It's a really attractive matchup tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies, so should be a really solid play overall. You're looking for 27, 28 out of him. Currently, I'm projected for 29, but if things start shaking the right way, he's probably a guy that gets you over 30 on tonight's slate overall. And then last but not least, at center, we're going to go with Kelly Olynyk here, $4,900. Looking for 24, 25 out of him, averaging 22.5 on the season. It's a really good, attractive matchup for centers versus the Dallas Mavericks tonight. Although he's not your typical center, he's more of, a guy that can shoot the ball a little bit, a guy that can do a little ball handling, assist. He'll get you some rebounds, a guy that can contribute in a lot of different categories. But at the same time, if there is no Jakob Poeltl tonight, he's going to look really good. Probably plays, 28 minutes, maybe even more tonight. So it should be a really good matchup for him overall. Does have some pretty strong high-end upside when he has gotten a lot of minutes, which hasn't really happened too much so far this season. So definitely do like him once again. Like I said, you're looking for 25 out of him. Currently, I'm projected for about 27, 28. Could have some upside for more. If he goes out there, plays 28 to 30 minutes, he has that high-end upside of getting you 30 fantasy points or more on tonight's slate overall. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do have listed, you got $23,100 remaining, $7,700 per player. So a lot of room and flexibility to pay up for some high-end pay-up options today. We have Luka Doncic, we have Nikola Jokic, obviously at the high end. We got, Tyrese Halliburton, Donovan Mitchell, guys like that you can also pay up for, Anthony Davis, LeBron James. So a lot of good higher-end players that are going to be out there as well. I'm going to mention, too, Anthony Edwards. He did get a little bit banged up in last night's game, too, so we'll see whether or not he's good to go tonight for the Timberwolves as well. I did kind of miss mentioning that when we were talking about the Timberwolves injuries, but should make for a pretty interesting slate overall. Should have some decent values by the time we get to lock and some decent pay-up options at the end of the day as well. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So on the FanDuel side, we're going to start off at the point guard position. Not anybody that truly stood out here, so just went with Emmanuel quickly, $7,100. Pretty reasonable value here. It's a little bit of a slower pace matchup against the Dallas Mavericks, but he's played really well as of late. You're looking for 35, 36 out of him. I think he's a guy that can more than likely get you, about 35 points. If he's hot, he's shooting the ball well tonight, then he probably gets you a little bit more. But looks like a pretty safe, steady play, at least early on the start of the day. As the day kind of moves along, there's probably going to be some other value that pops up that does ultimately end up replacing him, though. And then at shooting guard, we're going to go to Norman Powell once again. Still shooting guard and small forward eligibility on FanDuel, so you can play him at 4 of the different positions on the FanDuel side as well. Looking for 24 out of him. There is no Paul George once again tonight. And without Paul George out there on the court, he's been playing decent-sized minutes, and he's been playing relatively well. So looking for 24 out of him. Got him currently projected for 26 tonight. Just looks like one of the better value plays, at least early on today. Then at small forward, we got Benedict Mathurin once again, $6,300, so he's $100 more than he is over on the DraftKings side. Looking for 31, 32 out of him tonight. If he's in that starting lineup once again tonight, getting those big minutes with probably no Aaron Nesmith out there once again, he's going to look really good. He's been scoring the ball really well. He's even been rebounding the ball a little bit better as of late. It's a decent matchup against the Pelicans. The Pelicans, are kind of hit or miss defensively. Some games they're really good at it. Some games they're not so good, but they are kind of banged up at this point in time. So I do like him quite a bit. Currently I'm projected for about 33 tonight overall. And then on the opposite end of that game, we're going to go to Brandon Ingram at power forward at $8,000. Looking for 40 points on him. He's averaging about 38 so far in the season. Pace-up matchup tonight against the Pacers, so should be a pretty favorable one for him. There is the chance that Zion Williamson doesn't play tonight. There is also a chance that maybe CJ McCollum doesn't play tonight. So could be getting a lot of usage, or pretty much as many usage and shots that he can handle. And we even saw him kind of take on that de facto point guard role last night. Probably won't have to do that once again tonight, just because Jose Alvarado should be back. So even if CJ McCollum's out, then there's at least another guy that can kind of run the point, which might kind of lessen the load just a little bit for Brandon Ingram, but still has some pretty strong upside at the same time. We're looking for 40 points out. Currently I'm projected for 42, 43 in this pace-up spot versus the Indiana Pacers tonight. And then last but not least, we're going to Naz Reid once again, $5,800. Probably no Karl-Anthony Towns once again tonight. May or may not be Rudy Gobert. So looking for 29 out of him. Currently I'm projected for 30. It's a really favorable matchup against the Memphis Grizzlies, although, the Memphis Grizzlies' best player that's available, at least at this point in time, Jaren Jackson Jr. does kind of occupy that center spot. But it is a matchup, that Naz Reid's probably going to match up pretty well against him. Both these guys could get in a little bit of foul trouble here and there. That's kind of one of their detriments throughout both their respective careers. So hopefully that doesn't happen and be the case today, at least for Naz Reid, but do like the upside that he does present, especially, if Karl-Anthony Towns is out once again, and then there's always the chance that Rudy Gobert could be out as well, and then it looks like pretty much that Kyle Anderson will be out tonight after tweaking his hamstring in last night's game as well. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do currently have here, you'll have $28,000 exactly remaining, $7,000 per player exactly remaining as well. So a decent amount of money left over. Once again, there should be some values that do pop up throughout the day, which means that we'll be able to pay down at a couple of different spots and then be able to pay up for some of our stud players on tonight's slate as well. Whether it's Luka Doncic, obviously you could go Nikola Jokic at center and then move Naz Reid over to power forward. That is definitely an option on tonight's slate as well. But a lot of good high-end star players playing on tonight's slate should make it pretty easy to pay up and then kind of take advantage of some of those values that do ultimately end up popping up throughout the day as well. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both FanDuel and DraftKings for today, February 28th. As always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. I also do ask that you please note whether those questions are more FanDuel or DraftKings specific, just so I can best help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then, as always, I'll be listing all the injury updates as they do get announced throughout the day down in the comments, as well as the starting lineups as they are announced throughout the evening as well. So definitely be on the lookout for all that. And then last but not least, I also have my updated core listed as a pinned comment as well. That will be about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock. If there's any other additional changes after that point in time, I will leave them as a reply to that pinned comment as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we just have NBA DFS going on in terms of the core pick videos Monday through Friday. But starting next month, at the end of the month, we'll be doing some MLB DFS once the regular season starts for that, as well as some UFL DFS. So definitely be on the lookout for that. If it's something you're into, be sure to check it out. If it's not something you're into and you just kind of want to try it out, check it out for the very first time, would also welcome you to do that as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Prize Picks, and Parlay Play. If you are a brand new user on any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,500. Those are both on your initial deposit. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS tonight.